Hello, welcome, and thanks for joining us. This is TJF Talks. I'm Chris.
I'm Cheetah, and on our podcast, we talk to notables about jazz, the life, the music, the vibes, everything in between, and we do a little improvisation with our guests.
Yes, and today we interview Pete Swan. He's a Tucson-based band leader, drummer, teacher, and creative force with over 30 years of experience producing and performing. Now, he currently serves as the music director at Hacienda del Sol. And not only has he won the Jazz Hero Award from the Jazz Journalists of America, and not only is he a lifetime award winner from the Tucson Jazz Society, but he's also been inducted into the Tucson Musicians Hall of Fame.
He's done so much, you have to do a lot of and onlys in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Today with Pete, we get to talk about his teaching and expanding into Italy. We also get to hear an impromptu solo, which was really cool. And we are he talks about being immersed in the moment of a performance, which is a really cool thing. So let's jump into the show.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for coming in. We're so excited to have you. So what we do when we start is we do a little thing that we like to call improvisations. And it could be about anything. It could be fast, quick. It could be curious. It could be odd, but that's improvisations. So knowing that you as a jazz player should be able to handle improv.
That's always the truth.
Sure.
We'll start easy. All right. So for more than 30 years, you've been playing drum set professionally. So did you choose the drum set or did it choose you?
Great question. I kind of think the latter.
Yeah.
I grew up in a family, no one played music.
Mm-hmm.
My dad collected antiques, especially Russian antiques from the period of like Tsar Nicholas I and II. But we had this really great Oriental rug, and I had a small record player, and I found myself putting on records and then making drumsticks out of Tinker Toys.
I did the same thing. I did the same thing.
And I would play the different shapes and colors with the Tinker Toys to different things. So, there was something that definitely attracted it to me really early.
Did you ever turn the Lincoln Logs can upside down and play on that?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Right.
My mom more than once really questioned why I had to hit things all the time.
But did you
She usually used expletives of some kind.
Did you?
Right?
Yeah.
Did you take the wrapping paper tube though and like use it sort of as a microphone and be like, oh?
I had to learn to use a microphone later in life. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The drumming thing was like this. So you played different types of drums for a living. You've done like flamenco style, jazz, big band, across all those styles. Are there any like surprises that have come up in playing the different styles that you didn't expect, like within a gig or just learning a different style or something like that?
That's a great question, Chris. And I'd say yes all the time. I mean, I think I also play tabla, which is one of those things that is part of that same thing. I think that increasingly, because a lot of times the way people approach music is like, you're looking at written music,
right?
And I think increasingly, but I didn't learn to read till I was quite a bit older. So I found that having the marriage between speaking the rhythms,
Mm-hmm.
especially with tablas like that, has really worked well for my brain. I also use that when I'm teaching kids or even adults, is trying to go through the verbal side of the brain.
So in tabla playing, I know there's the tablas that you do. Do you have one that you could kind of explain? So for you that are listening, our listener out there, the sounds that you hear, the syllables, they all represent a different way to strike the drum or a different drum that you strike, and then and it's like a beautiful melody listening. Do you have one on your brand that you could do it like a short version?
I should have brought something with me, but like one that's the beginning of the one I'm doing right now is da tirikita taka tirikita da dena gena tena kena. So da would be on the index finger on the right hand,
Mm-hmm.
open stroke on the bion on the left. Tirikita is all dry tones.
Right.
And one of the things that really good tabla players can play really fast, and that's where Da terikita taka. This one. Da terikita taka terikita data gena tena kena. And so the da will always indicate an open stroke.
Yeah.
And then ke, or kena, will be a flat stroke on the right and left. So, and then there's like gaze, and, every now and then my teacher will go like, oh, why don't you know this stroke? I'll go, and nothing like getting called on the carpet by someone from India. You go like,
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah.
okay, I'm sorry.
I learned one of those 30 years ago. I can still recite it.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah. Yeah, like it just stuck with me. There's something about it, and if you're not watching this, if you're just listening, as Pete was explaining the ways, the different sounds, his hands were moving in a fashion as if as he would strike the tabla instrument.
Absolutely,
and that's super cool. How auditory and kinesthetic that learning process is, and creating, and then how you've transferred. I believe that's what I'm hearing. You've transferred that kind of thing from your early life and now into your later life of learning traditional Indian drumming to how it transfers to reading and what it looks like on the page.
Sure,
as well.
it definitely has a lot of relationship to jazz in the sense of, one of the things I've gotten my students doing a lot more of, we don't have quite an equivalent in terms of, like saying da for, for an open stroke.
Right,
drum.
right.
So there was a book that actually did that called Choom Boink, that obviously didn't make it to the top 10, but it's a really interesting idea. But the idea of singing the melody,
Right? Yeah.
like I was just talking about with Olio, and telling people, like saying, okay, you need to be able to sing the melody, and then using the verbal quality of it. What's long, what's short. Going back and listening to recordings like of Charlie Parker. I'm actually doing something totally crazy, but I'm teaching started a small jazz school in Soriano, Italy.
Oh yeah.
So I just had my class this morning, and it's been great for me because I've had to you learn new skills. So we just started working on the first the Miles solo on Freddie the Freeloader.
Yeah.
Da da da, bo do da 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 da. So like that, just being able to sing through it, and then like I was talking about da 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 bum bum da 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 da, and that's the first phrase. But then using that, as you very aptly put, it's you've got the sound, you got the kinesthetic breath part, and then you start being able to do that while you're playing time, then being able to play a solo over it. And it becomes a much more of a fully integrated kind of experience.
So you've just single-handedly dispelled a myth that exists in drumming, and which is this: that drummers can't sing, or they don't know the melodies, and they don't know the form. So let's dive a little deeper into that part, and then I'm going to go back to the Italy thing.
Okay.
So when you're soloing on the drum set, which most people do not consider a melodic instrument.
True.
Let's take a head like Freddie the Freeloader, or Don't Mean a Thing if it ain't got that swing. What is going on inside your head as you are playing?
Wow. I didn't know. Okay. I think so. It's a great question. Again, all these things, because I know I teach kids and adults. I've got like a retired pathologist that's a drummer.
Yeah.
Student, and so I'm in a sense counting, because especially with things, is to know how long the form is. What you're talking about, the form is so critical. But I've got that going like almost like a grid in the back of my head, and then on top of that, the melody superimposed over that. And especially if sometimes you have to learn a tune on the fly.
Right.
You're going, how many bars was that? How does it all fit? And then converting it into like different shapes or sounds on the drum set.
I love the idea of shapes too, right? Like you see a shape, like, oh, I'm going to paint a triangle here, and then this is a circle, and then I'm going to overlap the triangle over the circle. That's how I'm imagining as I speak.
That's a really good one. I mean, and drums, because they're you can easily go, oh, this is a triplet or a triangle shape to the right, or,
It sounds like drumming Tetris.
Oh, very much so. Yeah.
But I get that because, when you get a visual, so does that visual also go back to what you were saying about tapping into the part of the brain that is vocal and language, or the same kind of processes?
Absolutely. And I think I wonder, though I don't fully have it, I used to paint and I made a couple of movies with a friend. So I have a visual side that's kind of unusual, or, problematic more like it. But there's a little bit of almost something that would be like synesthesia where before I learned how to read, I remember once having this thing where I saw these two different geometric shapes moving in relationship to each other. And the rhythm was somehow generated by the gap between these two things. I went into therapy a lot after that, so I was able to get through that. I've had a normal life other than that.
Pete's seeing things inside his head.
I'm seeing that movie, the Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I didn't read. I mean, I just didn't know. I didn't even know how to do.
So
this.
did music help you learn language? Do you think that it aided in that space?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I think that. For me, more it was. I read a lot when I was a kid. So I think more though that it was extremely therapeutic for me. Yeah. I think that I found out I had ADHD. Probably everybody else knew until I was like 50, because they didn't have that diagnosis when I was a kid. Yeah. But also my mom was married a lot of times. There was a lot of, I had to move out of my house at 14. Not bad. It was a very interesting experience. But being able to hit something and not go to jail for it, it's always one of those things I think it's a real plus to drumming.
Yet moms still question, why do you have to hit everything?
That's right. And maybe that's what you need to move out for a while.
You might hit me next.
Yeah. It's nice to take that aggression, if it were aggression, or that inspiration, and turn it into something musical and create language out of it. Yeah. And find a positive spin to that. So you're listening to a piece of music live, recorded, and it's swinging or it's not swinging, and then you focus in on the hi-hat. The hi-hat is the double cymbals that are usually played by the foot by a drummer, and the hi-hat's not on 2 and 4. What does that do to your body? Oh, he gave the biggest sigh.
There was a sigh.
There was a big sigh
switch
on the
of
face.
things.
That's interesting because I really think about it from. I really think about it from the I don't really think it from the drum side as much anymore. I think it from the melodic side. Oh yeah. And now I'm starting to work on piano, and I'll try to listen to where the changes are going. And it's something I've wanted at some maybe time if I had like potentially your skill set, Chris, where I could I would write out a transcription of the piano part, and then take like great drummers and say, my question is, how did they make that choice to use that part of the drum set or that particular rhythmic pattern in relationship to that harmonic sound? Because I think that's really what's happening. A lot of times drummers listen to other drummers, and increasingly, I think the real information is in the harmonic choices the piano player, guitar player makes, or the soloist is making, in the way that the scale they play,
and how you support that,
exactly,
or engage that, or and I think that is tension and release.
Absolutely,
right?
Yeah,
who wants to read a book that nothing happens, right? It's just like, we walked to the park.
Yeah,
we didn't do anything, and then we came home, and then we didn't do anything, right?
That's absolutely. I mean, you said it more succinctly. I think that's absolutely it.
You're telling a story,
right?
And so you're on the bandstand, and you have this complex conversation going on. How do you know when to lead the conversation? Like, take your turn in leading, and how do you know when you're supporting the conversation?
Man, these are such great questions. So I think that in some ways, I was just telling my friend Scott Black, I said, I'm not sure. A lot of times right now, I really tend to take a step back at first.
Is that
just like,
I'm sorry, is that something that's come with age?
I think wisdom and sense, but like in this situation,
yeah.
If I came in here and I'm just talking about myself, what it is I'm closing off the space for the dialogue that you were talking about. The tension and release comes from, well, which park was it?
Yeah.
You know, and how did you feel when you came back home? You know, you see what I mean?
Right.
Well, I listened to what you said and I went, okay, what is this person trying to say? What's the emotional quality of it? And some of that could be looking at their body, posture, their facial expressions,
Right.
but a lot of it is like watching them and say, do they look comfortable? And then my hierarchy is I go, okay, first of all, I'm going to lock in and try to make sure that the bass player and I are playing a really consistent groove together so that the foundation is there for the soloist to go wherever they want. And then my responses are going to be based on what they do. And then trying to get a feeling of like, do they want this to be more like Elvin Jones, or do you want to be like Jimmy Cobb? You know, where you're just playing time and leaving lots of space, or do they want you to be more aggressive? I mean, I practice doing a lot of things, but a lot of times I start from a more place of, let me create a space for them.
So that's beautiful. So you talked about practice. You mentioned different artists. You mentioned Elvin Jones. Man, that drummer could groove like no one else. And you mentioned Cobb, who we have a picture of on our wall here in the studio. And that made me think about like different traditions of teaching, right? When you if you're learning English, you read the masters. Right? You read Shakespeare, you read Chaucer, you read, through different parts of history to understand how they wrote and how they came about. When you name your discipline, you're always gonna look back. And how important is that in your understanding of what you do and the different art forms of different types of jazz, of like who you've listened to and how that helps shape your own personal sound and who you are as a musician?
Oh, these are great questions. I know I should have brought my notes. No.
There's a test.
Yeah.
No, I think that's really an interesting one. I think, when you're younger, for me, I'm just going to say myself, you're younger, and you think, oh, well, I just want to do my own thing. And you'll often hear people say, I just want to create my own expression. But let's going back to, like I said, I used to draw, and I went to hitchhike through Europe for 6 months just to look at every piece of work by Michelangelo. And, trying to think about, well, look at how he made a stroke, and how did he make that shape, or how did he make the turn of the head? So I think the same analogy is true for music, is, again, those choices, and you listen to, the differences in the way people play, drummers play, and whether they're smooth, whether they're more aggressive, how they play phrases. Again, what's their response, and how to create tension and release within the music. So I think it's really incredible. And, as I've got older, you go like, oh man, you can never stop listening to it. It's like you can never stop reading Shakespeare, and go like, wow, that is so great. Like just talking about Kind of Blue with Jimmy Cobb, and I'll just say, he's not hardly soloing.
Yeah.
But his time, it has this quality to it. And it's like, I think, trying to memorize that feeling of how would it feel to just play like that, have that feeling in your body. And when, and then the same thing, like there's a great video of Elvin Jones demonstrating him playing onto a tune called 3-Card Molly. And it's just him, and he sings the melody, and then he plays it straight. Then he makes it more increasingly complex. And I don't know. I mean, it's always trying to be a student. I mean, I think that for me, it's just like realizing humility of there's always more to learn.
I love how that you reference like listening to masters and your idols, if I can use that word, and how you go back and you discover new things, and the beautiful thing, like with a lot of recorded music, especially in jazz, is you can listen to the person that's playing on a song, and you could probably find 4, 5, 6 different versions of that song.
Absolutely.
And each one's going to have a little bit of a different self-expression. Reminds me of Monet paintings.
Hmm.
You know, like haystacks. I just saw those recently. And they're like haystacks at winter, haystacks in summer, haystacks at sunset and whatnot. And you reference painting too and looking at strokes. And I'm telling you, I do the same thing. And I like sometimes, this sounds corny, but like I'm not even lying. Like tears come to my eyes. Like I'm looking at a painting and realizing the brilliance of what's happening right before my very eyes. And it's amazing.
That's really cool, and it's so wonderful that you mentioned that. I mean, I appreciate that vulnerability to talk about tears coming to your eyes. It happens fairly frequently to me. I'll be playing a tune. I used to have one when I was playing with the Pops. So and you'll hear this phrase, and there's just something about. And I don't know completely what it is, but I'll just start to tear up, and I'll have to kind of. Sometimes you're playing, and people are like, "Why don't you just smile?" And I'm going like, "I'm going to start crying,"
Yeah.
because at some quantum level, I'm going to use that term here, because I don't know all it's. You feel like it goes all the way down to the very nature and foundation of existence, up to I'm in a bar and people are drinking and we're playing with people.
Yeah.
So there's this physical manifestation of something much deeper. And it's that I'm going to do it right now. It's just that going like, wow, I'm in a physical body. I'm here in this place at this moment, and God, I'm getting verklempt.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my God, this is amazing.
I think you're hitting it right on the point that it's one of those magical things about this universal language that we know of as music, how it touches us as performers, and how we can use that through line through what we do to touch the people that we're so lucky to be able to have listen when we're in a room, whether it's 2 people in a room or if it's 1,000, it doesn't matter, right?
Right, absolutely.
Well, from a non-player standpoint, it also speaks to how music is a language, and you're completely consumed by it and involved in that moment and that time. And it's one of the key things about going and seeing live music is you as the viewer get to see that, and they'll see you bring that smile in, or you're going to start weeping.
Yeah, crying a little bit.
And it just really, it's a very interesting take on it, because I think a lot of people start out thinking, oh, it's just music. I'm just going to go see a band.
Right.
And they're just spectators. But once they really watch and start getting into it, then they feel the rest of that.
Yeah, it's that synergy that happens
Yes.
between everything. And now you may have answered this already with what you just said, but like you've been playing and presenting and teaching for well over 30 years or more. What keeps the fire in you these days?
That's another great question. I think that I just went through something because I had to have carpal tunnel surgery on both wrists, and it wasn't from playing; it was from working out. You know,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you look great.
And but I really had a hard time because I couldn't do what I wanted to do physically, and I really was concerned I couldn't play anymore.
Oh my gosh.
So I've been fortunate to kind of work through that, but it was a process. So the fire part. I'm always looking for things to challenge myself. Tabla is one of them. There's that thing about being human for me that where you go like, in one sense, we want to have things we know very clearly, and I'll watch your eyes for this time. And and you want to have things that you feel comfortable with. And I think that one of the challenges and that Scylla and Charybdis of life is that you go like, oh, I want to be comfortable, but the only way to grow is to continually try to push myself anyway to being uncomfortable, and trying to be aware of things I'm not as good at. Tabla is very a lot of humility to it. I just started to say, check out taking lessons with a guy who plays with Eddie Gomez. And I was saying, look, what I really need is something to say, teach me how you would play with Eddie Gomez. So he gave me an assignment to play along to a duet record with Eddie Gomez and Bill Evans. And so then it's a sense of like, saying, okay, I'm going to take this back to him. And he'll go like, yeah, you're great or you suck or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that it's having to go, I don't know everything. but I want to know more. And I want to try to find, like we were talking about briefly, just that sense of every moment is special.
Right.
And if I start to take it for granted, if I start to kind of go to sleep, as it were, and say, oh, well, this is okay, especially with playing music, it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good to me. And I would rather be playing right up into the moment I transition and not saying, oh, so I don't have any interest in retiring, does that say?
Right.
Nor do you have any interest in just phoning it in, it sounds like.
No, right. I think that's the other thing is like not settling for just being complacent or asleep.
Keeping that curiosity.
Yeah. We're going back and forth. Joel, you said it really well. Having and appreciating the opportunity to express and connect with an audience and know that something is going back and forth. You use the word synergy. I mean, it's amazing. So
Yeah. And that what you're talking about and what fuels you and your connection and the specialness to music probably is in large part why you've been doing it as long as you have and been so effective in our community of touching so many different people. So one thing we do in this on this podcast is we'll talk to a friend or family member of the person we're interviewing when we ask them, hey, what question would you like to ask Pete?
We dig deep. We troll all accounts. We're asking strangers on the street.
I promise I will pay you later today.
So we found a deep, dark enemy that we thought would be like, oh, let's have them ask a question.
Sure.
Now, ask a good friend of yours, Scott Black, and collaborator. I talked to him, and he goes, you've been. He wanted to know, you've been producing and presenting artists for many, many years and for over 25, 30 years, like we said, in Tucson. And let me get this right. He said, what's tougher, working with musicians or working with club managers and presenters?
Oh, easily club managers and presenters. I think.
Why?
It's obviously a necessary evil. I want to see evil about it. But the issue is that often and that's something that I've been able to incorporate in my brain and kind of separate out. But majority of the time, their interest is in how much money something is going to generate and not the aesthetic qualities, the emotional qualities that I think are important. And I usually try to help them go, you've got it backwards. My belief is, and it was, with Oak Purple Grill or even up at Hacienda del Sol right now, that if I have quality players and really focus on, it's no big crazy gig like Miles isn't going to walk in. Of course, he's dead, but he'd be like, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
But if
that'd be a really cool moment if you were able to pull that off. Yeah.
But if you focus on quality and integrity and communicating, that. And the same with the food. Let's be the food. If the quality of your food is good, the ingredients are good, you serve it well, you create a nice environment, word of mouth will allow that to be successful. Yeah. If every time I've seen a club or go towards, okay, we're going to start making money first, it falls short and it eventually will end because it's like a relationship. You're trying to create a relationship that's based on caring about your audience. And caring about what you present.
Well, it's hard because their brains work differently than yours, but they are part of your life and livelihood.
Yeah,
so
but if
always striking that balance between creativity and commerce.
Right.
You lean creative, the managers and booking people lean.
The only thing I'd say is after sitting in clubs and watching them, I actually feel that many times I know more about commerce because I count tables. I watch how the service is. I have this encoding going on every night I play and watching how the overall flow of things go. And I actually have opinions on it, though most of the time they'd go like, we're not going to ask a drummer about this. But I'd say this is where I see flaws in potential system. So
right. Yeah. And ultimately, I hear you. If you lead with integrity and the commerce will come. It's like that. If you build it, we will come, and it always plays to the positive there.
So we always ask one question at the end, and so many ways you have already answered, but it is why music,
Why does live music matter?
Well, because going back to the energy exchange, it's interesting if you have a conversation with someone on a phone or even on a Zoom call, it's not the same as sitting across from them and having a glass of wine or a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Because there are so many, from a very real standpoint, there are so many levels of, I'm going to use the word energy, but obviously things, you've got facial expression, you've got the feeling and warmth of their body, you've got this electromagnetic exchange that's going on. All those things fully enrich the kind of communication. And I think for watching live music, that's part of it. Mm-hmm. And then the other one, I think that goes back to something that you've alluded to, Chris, is trying to get people, like with classical music, get them excited about learning about the music. My thing about jazz, for example, is that most people think it's really weird because they don't know the song. And I said, this is about basically it's theme and variations. And the same thing for a classical piece or Bach. If you don't know the theme, then you don't really appreciate the variations. And because there's so much improvisation, but it's based on the harmony and the melody of the tune. And once you start to hear that, they're inside, they're outside. That's so.
Pete, we are going to have to do this again. I could keep talking to you for hours
I
about
was
all
just
this.
thinking the same thing. I'm like, this conversation is just
it's
a little teeny
mind-blowing.
crack in the...
But we're running out of time, so thank you so much for spending some of your day with us today.
Oh, thank you.
More information about you at peteswan.com.
You can. I'm not... Yeah. I struggle a little bit with doing that part of it.
We all
it's more
have
about
those
look
struggles.
over here.
We definitely all have those struggles. And then, of course, any of your socials, and just look and listen, and we'll find you all about Tucson.
Yeah. They can sign up for my email. I put out an email every week for saying what's going on. So
yeah,
wonderful.
Man, it's
Thank
a
you
great
so
source.
much.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. A pleasure. I'll just shake hands here. If
High five. Air
Okay,
five.
fine.